Hello and welcome to Mansell Kart Racing Club on the 24th of September 2023. It's time for the biggest event of the year for the Formula Blues. It is the NKRA Grande Finals. And as you can see, a large grid of Formula Blues has descended upon Mansell Raceway. The final scores from the Blue Challenge: Anthony Cleal would take the win ahead of Harry Smithson and Mike Bell, with Paul Alexander and Alex Kemp making up the top 5. David Waldron comes next ahead of Steve Groves, Max Gunter, Rob Mortimer and Joey Foster to complete the top 10, ahead of John Hartshorn, Robin Stoddart-Stones, Ron Schoen, Stuart Gray and Mitch Carpenter completing the top 15. The Blue Challenge finishing positions will go into the calculation to determine the seeded numbers for the next 12 months. So 60% of the score coming from the Blue Challenge for this year, so a good job for Anthony Cleal to take the lead. That'll be teamed with a 40% score from today's events as the camera team heads out onto the circuit to film this 7 minutes plus a lap final. Let's go back and see what happened earlier in the day. Heat 1 was contested under extremely wet conditions, and it was a victory for number 16 Harry Smithson from the second row of the grid. Anthony Cleal would follow him home second ahead of Kevin Ford and Taylor Waldron. James Dawkins would come from the back of the grid all the way up to finishing 5th in his return to Formula Blue. Joey Foster would be in behind him ahead of Dave Watts, Stuart Adam, Max Gunter and Mike Bell would complete the top 10. As you can see here, Kevin Ford off the line, karts all over the place looking for grip down into pit bend. There's David Waldron sliding wide ahead of us, and then 3 and 4 wide going up the straight. Later on in the lap, round the outside, Ford looking for grip. Alex Kemp ahead of us, dispatching his teammate Anthony Lee off the front row, before Kemp himself would be sliding wide in pit bend. Likewise Paul Alexander, they were in a heated battle, but it was Harry Smithson who would tame the conditions and take the first of 4 heat wins this afternoon. Heat number 2, and it was a win for another one of our camera karts. Kevin Ford would take victory, this time ahead of Mike Bell from 12th on the grid. Joey Foster and Dave Watts gaining 17 and 18 positions respectively, and Stuart Adam would complete the top 5 in another strong performance. Anthony Cleal would come next ahead of Steve Groves, Max Gunter, James Dawkins once again breaking into the top 10, and David Waldron rounding out the top 10. Kieran Quirk in behind ahead of Rob Mortimer, Paul Alexander, Phil Shears and David Good to complete the top 15. As you can see here, action all over the place. It's Mike Bell down the inside of Steve Groves, Max Gunter and Stuart Adam going into battle in front of us. 2 major things to note here though. That's number 16 Harry Smithson struggling with a carburettor issue that would cut his heat 2 short, and Taylor Waldron would actually be docked a lap for a non-compliance, and he would be finishing second on the grid and dropping all the way down to 24th in the results. But it was Kevin Ford who would take the first dry heat of the day. Heat 3, and it was won by the O-Plate Dave Watts off the front row. Anthony Cleal would follow him home second with the fastest lap of the race ahead of Joey Foster. Paul Alexander and Mike Bell complete the top 5, with David Waldron in behind ahead of Harry Smithson. Phil Shears in his return to the Formula Blues in 8. James Dawkins once again breaking the top 10 from the back of the grid, and Kevin Ford would round out that top 10 ahead of Mitch Carpenter, Rob Mortimer and David Good, with Scott Lay and Callum Jobson completing the top 15, both going up 10 positions apiece from the back of the grid. Here we have Alex Kemp getting caught out in a big spin. Thankfully everyone avoided him. Kevin Ford meanwhile was charging his way through here, passing David Good and smoothly transitioning it into a move against Rob Mortimer. But here's James Dawkins from the back of the grid in a very spottable helmet, as Mike Bell and David Waldron went into battle on the last lap, the move being made at pit bend, and Harry Smithson just about unable to capitalise with a win for Dave Watts in the 3rd heat. And the 4th and final heat was won once again from the front row, this time from Mike Bell leading home an Octane 1-2 ahead of Kieran Quirk. Joey Foster would be 3rd ahead of Dave Watts the O-Plate, and Harry Smithson up 16 positions into 5th. Kevin Ford would be 6th ahead of Anthony Cleal, James Dawkins and Max Gunter, and Paul Alexander completing the top 10 in the 4th and final heat of the day. Rob Mortimer in behind ahead of David Waldron, Robin Stoddart-Stones, Taylor Waldron and Mitch Carpenter with another top 15. As you can see, wheel-to-wheel stuff. Here's Kevin Ford going through past Rob Mortimer on the entrance to the complex. Further back, Harry Smithson there watching Paul Alexander make the move against Taylor Waldron, and Smithson wasting no time in getting on the attack of the number 84 as they would head up the back straight. Down the inside goes the Praga. But the fourth heat was closed out by Mike Bell, taking his first heat win of the year, and what a better time to take it than in the final race before the final of the Grand Finals. As the karts lined up on the grid ready to go, it's the O-Plate Dave Watts lining up on pole position. Alongside him on the front row is Anthony Cleal, the number 1, with Joey Foster and Mike Bell making up row 2, with just a single point separating the top 4 in the qualification. Kevin Ford rounds out the top 5 ahead of James Dawkins on the black plates in 6th. Harry Smithson 7th ahead of Kieran Quirk and David Waldron, with Max Gunter completing the top 10. Paul Alexander comes next ahead of Rob Mortimer, David Good, Steve Groves, Mitch Carpenter and Phil Shears all separate on tiebreak. Stuart Adam would unfortunately have seized his engine at the very last lap of Heat 3, so he would not be starting the finals. That'll move Taylor Waldron and Anthony Lee up a position, with Scott Lay running out the top 20 ahead of Callum Jobson, Robin Stoddart-Stones, Alex Kemp, Ron Schoen, Paul Wheeler, Tom Parker and Nigel Vickery, the 2 non-starters at the back of the grid. And unfortunately Mitch Carpenter has had an issue which has caused him to have a delayed start, so he will have to catch up to the back of the pack, which is already up at Hanger Bend. Dave Watts and Anthony Cleal slowing the pack down into a 2x2 formation, as there's Paul Wheeler rounding the final corner. Mitch Carpenter on the way up to Hanger, but it looks like we're going green this time by. So an out of position start for Carpenter, but keep an eye on the O-Plate. Dave Watts keep an eye on the lights as they head through the cut through. And away they go, and it's a fantastic start from Watts. He's got the jump, Joey Foster's gone with him, and Cleal and Bell have gone backwards on the outside. Kevin Ford challenging up the inside as well. Dawkins and Smithson in there too. That looked like Anthony Lee going out wide as we hop on board with Paul Alexander. Max Gunter in front of us, that's Rob Mortimer up the inside, and Taylor Waldron's going to follow him through. So Waldron looking to make up ground early, as that's Phil Shears and David Good ahead of us, and Phil Shears sparking there as we can see from the onboard camera from Anthony Lee, as they're going 3 and 4 wide up the back straight into the exit of the loop. Now back on board with Kemp, that is Callum Jobson now attacking David Good in front of us, and they're all going to run wide. Kemp going to go through the chute, and Mitch Carpenter looking to make up positions already as he picks off Paul Wheeler and Ron Schoen by the looks of things, as the pack heads down already to the chicane. It's Watts leading from Foster and Cleal, then there's a gap, Ford, Dawkins, Bell, Smithson, Quirk, then it's Waldron, Mortimer, Gunter and Taylor Waldron in the white bumper. As down the straight we go, looks like Taylor Waldron looking to have a look at Gunter, but to no cigar as the pack heads down through pit bend. And that's James Dawkins up the inside of Kevin Ford. Mike Bell looking to follow him through, but clatters over the curb, and that's going to give Smithson a run, and through goes the Praga. That is big for the numbers, because Smithson and Bell 2nd and 3rd in the seeding so far. And that's Paul Alexander making the move on Max Gunter, and a bit of contact there with Steve Groves. No harm, no foul though, as Gunter continues looking to try and get back at Paul Alexander. Robin Stoddart-Stones running wide in the background, and Anthony Lee looking to make the move as the pack heads through the Hanger Bend once again and across the line. It's still the top 3, bumper to bumper as they cross the line. James Dawkins looking to bridge across, and here comes Harry Smithson in the blue Praga down the inside of the red speed of Kevin Ford. So the blue overtaking the red is further back there. That's Callum Jobson looking at David Good, and through goes the number 72 as the pack into the complex once again. Harry Smithson looking to set off after James Dawkins. Phil Shears making the move there, and Mitch Carpenter over the curbs but passing David Good, and Mike Bell now down the inside of Kevin Ford. That's a move for 6th place, but Ford looking to battle back, but he's on the wrong side. And sure enough, Bell slots ahead of Kevin Ford. Next up to try and attack Kevin Ford is Kieran Quirk, and that's Anthony Lee sliding wide through. That looked like when Alex Kemp and Callum Jobson as the 3 leaders into the chicane once again. There's Dawkins trying to bridge across. Smithson building up a gap ahead of Mike Bell. There's further back there. That is David Good looking to attack back against Mitch Carpenter. Rob Mortimer now under pressure from Taylor Waldron, and Paul Alexander further back as the leaders into the complex. It's Watts, Foster, Cleal as close as that. And then comes the rest of the pack there. Taylor Waldron looking to attack Paul Alexander. Scott Lay in there as well with the red front bumper. As the pack going through the complex. That's a spin for Paul Wheeler. He's kept it going. He's going to get it back in the right direction, get on up the track. As the pack now exits the loop up towards the hangar there, we're hopping on board with Rob Mortimer. Ahead of us is David Waldron, looking to get a good exit. Kieran Quirk just in front in the Octane, as the leaders come to cross the line once more. And James Dawkins getting ever closer. Can he catch up, or will he run out of time? As further back there, that's Taylor Waldron looking to line up Rob Mortimer. And down the inside he goes. Good move from Waldron. Further back, Scott Lay gets the pass as well. And Paul Alexander is going to follow Taylor Waldron through past Rob Mortimer and launch an attack himself. Up the inside goes Alexander in the Tony Kart, passing Taylor Waldron. That's Steve Groves as well on the back. But for the lead, Joey Foster's caught Dave Watts, and down the inside he goes as they exit the loop. It's the 66 of Foster now leading the way as they head up towards Hangar Bend. Can Dave Watts launch a comeback? Anthony Cleal in there as well. As further back, Max Gunter now lining up Scott Lay in the 55. But Scott Lay's going for a gap on the inside of Rob Mortimer, and he's done it. Good move from Lay as they head down towards the final chicane. Steve Groves looking to get stuck in there in the Cosmic, the number 4 in the background, as they cross the line to start another lap. There goes the pack down to Pit Bend. And that is Robin Stoddart Stones down the inside of Phil Shears. So a move from the 6th plate. There's Ron Schoen starting to get tailed off at the back, but for the lead, they're going around the back straight. And in the complex, it's still bumper to bumper. It's groups of 4 or 5 setting up. Scott Lay now down the inside of Taylor Waldron. Nothing doing there though, but Steve Groves passes Max Gunter in behind. And here's the battle for 6th. Kevin Ford now right on the back bumper of Mike Bell, with Kieran Quirk in tow as well. As here come the leaders into the chicane. It's Foster, Watts, Cleal, bumper to bumper. Anthony Cleal could be playing this quite cagey. He knows if he finishes where he is, that's going to retain his number 1 for another season. As we hop on board with Anthony Lee. Callum Jobson in front of us and Alex Kemp ahead of him. Through the chicane they go into the complex. You can see that the 22 of Dawkins really closing in. Here comes Kevin Ford from a long way back against Mike Bell. Nothing doing there though, but Ford showing his intent. And it's Waldron, Alexander, and Scott Lay down the inside of Taylor Waldron. So Scott Lay making up another position. And Kevin Ford now back on the tail of Mike Bell, once again looking down the inside. Nothing doing there though, but Bell's going to slide wide and Ford looking for the run. Nothing happening up into Hangar, but into the final chicane. Dave Watts closing up under braking, so that battle for the lead not finished yet. Nor really any of the battles, as Kevin Ford looking once again down the inside of Mike Bell. Meanwhile, on board with Paul Alexander, that's Dave Waldron clattering the curb in the chicane. Likewise Phil Shears, and here comes Alex Kemp now looking to get the run. Callum Jobson in as well as they go side by side across the line, but Kemp on the wrong side. Phil Shears holds that position. As into the complex there, Steve Groves on the back of Rob Mortimer. Phil Shears holding off Kemp, Jobson and Lee, and Mitch Carpenter looking to try and bridge across to them. Mike Bell getting a hit of the curb as well as they exit the loop. Kevin Ford looking to try and get the overlap. Kieran Quirk in there as well, so it's a 3-way duel for 6th position. Just as it is a 3-way duel for the lead into the chicane. Bumper to bumper stuff go the leaders. And the last lap board is out. Joey Foster only has 1 more lap to go to hold on to the lead. The O-plate tucked up tight behind him. Anthony Cleal in there as well, so it's still 3 abreast for the lead, and James Dawkins has almost caught them. So anything going wrong between this top 3 and Dawkins will be in there. Phil Shears defending the inside from Alex Kemp a little bit further back, and Paul Alexander all over the curb looking to try and attack David Waldron. Taylor Waldron in behind with Rob Mortimer and Steve Groves all over him. Phil Shears holds that position. Alex Kemp attacking him, Callum Jobson attacking Kemp, and Anthony Lee in there as well. Mitch Carpenter to boot. But out of Hangar Bend for the final time into the chicane, it's Foster leading, and he's got a gap ahead of David Watts, and round through the final chicane, and Joey Foster is going to take the win of the NKRA Grande Finals. Dave Watts right behind him, but there's still plenty of racing going on. Mike Bell holding off Kevin Ford, and Paul Alexander with the run on David Waldron. It's going to be a photo finish at the line. Too close to call from this angle. Scott Lay in there as well. Phil Shears holding on to his position further back. There's David Good holding off Ron Schoen as well. Well, what a race that was. It was short, it was frantic, and it was exciting, and fist bumps all around from the lead group as the pack heads back towards the pit lane. have a moment to breathe as the drivers thanking the marshals and the camera team on their way through back into the pits. And the results will stand after Parc Fermé. It's Joey Foster taking the win of the final, less than half a second ahead of Dave Watts, with Anthony Cleal right on his tail. James Dawkins would finish fourth with the fastest lap of the race ahead of Harry Smithson to round out the top 5. Mike Bell comes next ahead of Kevin Ford and Kieran Quirk, with David Waldron just pipping Paul Alexander at the line to round out the top 10. Scott Lay finishes 11th ahead of Taylor Waldron and Rob Mortimer, with Steve Groves and Max Gunter rounding out the top 15. Robin Stoddart Stones will come next ahead of Phil Shears, Alex Kemp, Callum Jobson and Anthony Lee completing the top 20, with Mitch Carpenter 21st ahead of David Good, Ron Schoen and Paul Wheeler rounding out the finishers. What that'll do to the grand final results: Anthony Cleal would be the winner with a second and third. Joey Foster finishes the day in second ahead of Mike Bell third, and Dave Watts a single point behind him fourth, and Harry Smithson making up the top 5. David Waldron comes next ahead of Paul Alexander, James Dawkins, Kevin Ford and Kieran Quirk to complete the top 10. Those last three on tiebreak, a win for James Dawkins. Rob Mortimer 11th ahead of Max Gunter, Steve Groves, Scott Lay and Taylor Waldron complete the top 15. Just pipping Mitch Carpenter ahead of Alex Kemp, Robin Stoddart Stones, David Good and Phil Shears running out the top 20. And what that'll do to the numerical seedings: Anthony Cleal is going to retain his number 1 plate for another season. Likewise, Mike Bell retaining his number 2. Harry Smithson will be the new 3 plate ahead of Paul Alexander and David Waldron. So 3 of the top 5 retaining their numbers. Joey Foster moves to number 6 ahead of Steve Groves and Max Gunter, with Rob Mortimer and Alex Kemp completing the top 10 of the seedings. Dave Watts will be the new number 11 ahead of Kieran Quirk, Robin Stoddart Stones, Mitch Carpenter and Ron Schoen, with Paul Wheeler, Scott Lay, Anthony Lee and Kevin Ford rounding out the top 19 seeded numbers for the drivers to be using for the remainder of the year and through 2024. You can see there Taylor Waldron congratulating his father David on a job well done. Good final from that battle pack, and Dave Waldron retaining his number for another year. So good job to get even within the top 5, let alone to retain it. Handshakes all around as the drivers are looking to be out on track next time for the 4th round of the Two Counties Kart Club Championship, coming to you from Clay Pigeon Kart Club. We will see you then. Goodbye.
I shouldn't have choked up.
Huh?
I shouldn't have choked up.
No, thank you.
That slowed me down, didn't it?
Yeah.
You got me.